I think a lot of people before he announced viewed him, conservative voters particularly, as like the heir apparent for 2028.
Big time.
So do you think he's totally messed that up at this point? And why do you think he decided to, I'm sure he heard those rumblings, why would he jeopardize that?
You know, I ask myself the same question all the time. And look, I speak to sources in DeSantis world every day. And I ask about what the mood is like. I ask about what the decision making is like. And I think there's a sense, and you see it publicly, so this isn't like I'm sharing something I couldn't share, that because the governor's reelection went so well that all they had to do was copy and paste that operation, and then and you know, just like in Photoshop when you use the the duplicate, the duplicate function, that you can just duplicate that in 50 states and then you win. But again, that's missing the key fundamentals. The key fundamentals that Iowa's a different state, that the Rust Belt in general, so the Midwest is different, the Rust Belt is different. The Rust Belt maybe doesn't care so much about the culture wars as a Florida voter or a Southern voter does. Maybe they care about the economy. Maybe they care about trade. Maybe they care about immigration, issues which, as a governor, it's hard to kind of touch because they are particularly more foreign policy. And you go to them and say, well, I think most people agree that wokeness has gone too far and it's run amok. But what I'm saying is that for a 4-quadrant national strategy, you need multiple pillars. And what they've done instead is, and they know that wokeness polls so well for Republicans. It clearly polls well for Ron DeSantis, and they've fashioned their entire campaign against this one pillar. That may work with certain demographics of the country, certain regions, but not everywhere. And so you do need a campaign that is hitting various wickets that are going to get more traction in those areas. I haven't seen them do that yet. They sound like it sounds like almost like a single issues voter kind of campaign that's tailored to one. And look, I'm a social conservative, I'm a Catholic, right? I think he's been great on the heartbeat bill. I think he's been great on wokeness. I can't think, I'm great on the death penalty. I can't think of anything he's done that I specifically disagree with. But when it comes to my political analysis hat and putting that on and understanding the way movements ebb and flow, I think the Republican electorate very much wants to see another Trump run. They feel, you have to be so careful which word you use. I'm going to say that he got screwed in 2020. I think there's that if you talk to the typical Republican voter, and if you drill down and they'll talk about, this issue, that issue, but the pervasive sense, 30,000 feet view, he got screwed. And the typical Republican voter wants Trump to have another bite at the apple. And we've seen that in poll after poll after poll, that he deserves another chance. And that's the thing is, if you're a political operative, your job isn't to go and tell them what their opinion should be. Your job is to understand their opinion. And I don't think that operation out of Tallahassee has done the homework. I don't think they've done the homework to lay this out, to understand the difference here. And this is why you're seeing these margins that are now being run up in places like New Hampshire, which functions almost like the Rust Belt, the Granite State up there, in places like even now Florida, where he's down 20 points in certain polls. That was the FAU poll. And so you really have to answer your question, because I'm not doing that. I'm going to dance around your question, because that is what he did on Ukraine when Tucker asked him as well. And I think it's such a contrast between Vivek, who gives you specifics, regardless of what you think of Vivek, and this guy's new and he's fresh and I don't know who he is and what's his resume, but he tells you specifics. Whereas DeSantis comes in and we ask him about Ukraine, which is a key issue, and he says, well, we need to fight but not fight, and we need to win but win carefully, and there's no specifics. It's all vague. So for 2028, yes, I think at this point he is in jeopardy of losing that frontrunner status, and on his current trajectory, depending on if he's able to pivot, depending on if he's able to stem the bleeding of cash and staff that he's in right now, you could end up like Ted Cruz, or you could end up like Scott Walker, who is, basically a cable news commentator at this point.